Great. Hello and welcome to Debate Night by Company Voices here in Nairobi, Kenya. And my name is Okoth Opono, the host of this amazing show. And today we are coming again back to you live from the same time that we had promised. But tonight, it is not a debate as usual, but an open forum discussion with young people joining us from different parts of the country. And today our question is one that is very, very, very interesting. During this COVID-19 pandemic, what has been happening? So many people lost their jobs. Yes. Parents lost their jobs, who lost sources of livelihood. Families have been broken by this pandemic. Some people did not even manage to go back to school. And you know what this leads to. Many times when you're faced with this kind of situations, you are likely to find yourself leading a life that is not the one that you're used to. So today we are talking about stress management. And as I said earlier, it's a very open discussion and we are letting everyone join in case you feel like you want to join the contributions. Of course, contribution towards the topic of discussion, feel free. We are live on YouTube and also those joining me live in the Zoom virtual hall. Karibuni sana. Josephine, Flora, Lilian, Samir, Derek Were, Elena, Florence, Majella, Francisca, Omondi, Roslyn, that is, we have Omukoko, Professor Meshuli, Ryan, Charles, from wherever you're joining us, Asanteni sana and Karibu. Derek, just a quick one. Derek, if I may start with you, Derek, Were. Derek, Were, if I may start with you, maybe you can unmute because you're muted. Derek, the word stress inamaanisha nini?
Well, according to me, stress is a physical or emotional pressure, or I can say emotional demands due to pressures of life. So I think for lack of a better word, or in a simpler term, that is how I can define stress.
Okay, wonderful. Maybe Lilian, quick to you. For you, what is stress?
For me, I define stress as experiencing overwhelming with situations that somebody might be going through. So if you're overwhelmed with the situation mass situations that you're in, that causes stress.
Wonderful. Flora?
Okay, I'd say it's anything or any state of mind that you feel you're uncomfortable. Anytime you're uncomfortable and feel like there's something wrong and you don't know what is wrong, like you can't do anything, just that state of mind where you are extremely uncomfortable with things around you, I'd say that's stress.
Right. Elena. Karibu sana, Elena. Elena joining us from Mount Kenya University, but also running her own organization. And I know she's very big on this, especially on issues to do with working with girls and generally also just around the mental health of girls. Elena, karibu sana.
Thank you.
To you, what is stress, Elena?
Stress is anything that it's an expansion of something that hinders the normal thinking of the brain.
Okay. Wonderful. Anyone else on the panel, please feel free just to turn on your video or turn on your mic. Then you'll be able to tell us what you think about the whole discussion that we are having here. Omukoko says a situation where we are emotionally or mentally disturbed or strained. Do you think COVID-19 pandemic presented such a situation that we were emotionally or mentally disturbed or strained, as Omukoko or as any other person here stated? Derek?
Thank you so much again for giving me this opportunity. When you talk about COVID, we talk about people losing their jobs, you talk about families breaking. And from the definition of stress, it can be caused by a number of factors. And as far as COVID is concerned, and as far as people losing their jobs is concerned, it means it opened up another wound, or rather it made people become more stressed, emotionally tensed, and it led to so many other things. I think, as I've mentioned before, stress is a basic sign of mental illness. If you cannot control your stress, while it's still a stress, then it can lead to other things, it can lead to depression, it can lead to suicidal thoughts, and a number of other mental related issues. So I believe, and I strongly believe, COVID-19 resulted to a number of mental health issues that we are seeing today. And again, it also exposed us to what we have never been able to solve as a country or as a continent or as the entire globe, that we have sidelined the importance of our mental well-being. And COVID-19 came to remind us it is time to refocus our energy on ourselves and ensuring that we are stable emotionally and we have time for ourselves before we can create room for other things and other people. Thank you.
Wonderful. Lillian, do you think COVID-19 pandemic presented a situation that we are talking about here?
Of course it did, because COVID was new and it brought a lot of changes in just even the simple ways in how we interact with people. Now we are Zooming. Maybe this session tungekuwa tunafanya in a place where we are together. So things like those, from big changes to small changes that we are not used to. So definitely we have to start to learn how to cope with these things. And some of the things that Derek has mentioned, loss of jobs, and we've witnessed things like GBV. Those things create stress. So of course right now we have a special spotlight on mental health issues because the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the things that maybe have been existing, but now they exist on a higher scale. So of course, COVID-19 has caused stress because of the changes that it brought, the changes in environment, changes in ways of operation, changes in working and interacting with fellow human beings. So there's a lot of stress that has come with that, and learning how to cope and things like that.
Okay, Josephine, Flora?
Yeah, I'd say it has, like the way Lillian has stated, like with the changes that came with COVID, a lot of things happened. I'll start with the changes that actually affected me directly. I'll speak from my own perspective of a student. Like, we were used to physical studies and now we had to shift to online studies. And now you're at home, where I think that was the toughest period of my life. Like me, okay, personally, I just value education. I value school and classwork. So if you wake up in the morning, you have a class at 8, you're expected to prepare breakfast, you're expected to clean the house and do all the household chores that you need to do. At the same time, a class is going on. So you're listening to the class, you're cooking. You are listening to, so at last you end up not grasping what you need to grasp. Personally, it did really affect me. Like, I'd sit down and I'm like, oh my God, Aki Mimi, this semester, I think I'll just fail because I have not gotten anything from that class. You have assignments you need to do. So this whole online stuff is not working for you. You are here, you're waiting for the class, boom, the bundles are over. So kuna hiyo stress pia, and you're very uncomfortable, you're very uneasy, you're very disturbed actually. So with the changes that came with Corona, it really, I'll speak from a student perspective, most of us were really affected. We have some that decided, to hell with this semester, I'll do after Corona, and too bad unto them, the Corona didn't end, so they're still not in school, and if they come back, they're way behind. So it's stressful, and when you're a student, and you're a student and things are not working, it's definitely eats you up. So yeah, I'd say with the changes that came, it really brought a lot of stress and unstable situations in most of us. Yeah.
Sorry, Elena.
Okay, I will say that the pandemic has really affected us. And on my point, I will talk about being quarantined. You'll realize that majority of the people right now, they're on self-quarantine. But you'll realize huyu mtu haizi associate na wewe. And by that, you'll realize that this person, his or her mental health is being affected in one way or another one. Because remember that we have always said, if you're not okay, you really have to get somebody whom you can talk to. Yes, we can say that the social media is really helping, but on the other hand, it's also not helping in a way. Because I remember when Corona was hitting us so hard, there was a time we could not even, personally, I could not even wish to watch the news, because each and every time I will switch on the news, I could just see negative things, and you'll realize that really affected us. And you can tell I was not on self-quarantine. What about the person who was quarantined? How was she feeling? How was he feeling? And that's where stress comes in. Unapata, this person just wishes, I just wish to die. And you'll realize that the more his or her mental health is being disturbed, the more the suicidal thoughts are coming in. Because I always say somebody cannot just wake up early in the morning and say me, I just want to kill myself. No, you'll just realize mental health and suicidal thoughts is just like a cup. A cup, if you fill it with water, it's a jar. And this person, akiwa quarantine, if this person has saidiki when it comes to mental health, this person will just end up feeling like, nikitoka hapa, let me just kill myself. Because another thing you'll realize, it has also brought stigmatization. After you're out of the quarantine, nobody wants to associate yourself with, hataki kujiassociate na wewe. So it has really brought a lot of stress.
Okay, that is very interesting listening from Elena here, and of course we'll keep on contributing to this topic. Mkokoya says, can someone kindly explain the difference between anxiety, stress, and depression? Then he goes ahead to say, I think this uncertainty has also massively contributed to stress. So let me ask to you, because nobody here is any special panelist. We are all panelists today. All those joining us from home, from school, from wherever you are. I know also there's a friend watching this session from hospital, and he promised that he has to watch it. Thank you so much for joining, and just wishing you quick recovery wherever you are. You know who I'm talking about, of course. So then, when we're talking about all these situations, we know that these things came. I mean, they were unforeseen. So when Elena is talking about social media, or even just the mass media, what was happening there before? Every day you are watching news and cases were jumping from. You remember the first days that when it was 2 cases, we were really being surprised, 7 cases, 10 cases, and one day it jumped to 100, 110, 300, 400. Okay. Was this causing any kind of anxiety in our minds, like especially now for those who are students, the moment the schools were closed? Lilian, Flora, maybe to be specific. Did you expect schools to be open anytime soon?
When you say schools, you mean like we go back to our normal system?
Yes. I mean, when because I don't think most people even believe that the school will be closed and people can. I mean, that long holiday that we all stayed at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
To you as a student, did it worry you?
Yeah, it did. It did worry me because we were looking forward to the day that we will go back to school. And then the most worrisome part was that part where you'll hear other schools, other universities have resumed studies, and then our school didn't resume. We didn't go back to school. And then they didn't even stay for long. And then they were recalled to go back home. So there was a lot of tension in between because most of us were really looking forward to that day we'll go back to school. And we're hoping at least probably by the time we're going to do our exams, we'll do them physically because studying online was hectic. So yeah, it was okay, kulikuwa na hiyo worry and tension, and students were really looking forward to that moment of going back to school, of them going back to school. So yeah, there was a lot of tension, and I'll say that is definitely stressful. And okay, actually, there's something that just hit me while we are talking.
Yep.
Okay, it's stressing ingine tena ni kuvaa mask. It's stressful to most of us up to now, like to put up with and accepting that we have to put on masks, doing everything. It's stressful. You can't breathe. Some of us can't breathe. Personally, I can't breathe. I'm just from my teaching practice. I'm telling you, teaching in a mask is hectic, and you are expected to teach in it. Like ilikuwa inakukula kichwa. You don't know what to do. You don't know if you should remove it or put it on. But then at the same time, you need to like adjust to things. So yeah, that's also another thing that's really disturbed most of us.
Okay, so maybe just a quick one. I don't know that Lillian or Derek would like to take us through this. Then we just head straight away to looking at the possible solutions. What are some of the causes of stress which are maybe according to research or from what you do, Lillian?
Okay, even before we talk about causes of stress, let me just answer the person who asked about stress, anxiety, and depression. What is the difference? Stress, we have defined, it's a condition that overwhelms you majorly emotionally. Then depression and anxiety are mental health disorders. Depression is characterized by state of hopelessness and sadness, deep state of hopelessness and sadness. and it tampers with your day-to-day operation. Kama unafanyanga, like it tampers with your routine, you're not able to achieve the things that you usually achieve. Anxiety, on the other end, it is characterized by fear and worry, just the way we have talked about here. Fear and worry, and also destabilize you. You're not able to function normally because of the anxiety that you're experiencing. So that is depression and anxiety and stress. So what causes stress? Various things for various people, because things that might stress me maybe might not stress Derek. The people are different. Our temperaments and personalities and our coping mechanisms are different. But change is one of the things that causes stress, because change breaks your routine. It brings something new, so you have to adapt. So that means it can bring a little stress here and there. So majorly change, and also traumatic situations. If you happen to go through, if you had, for example, a rough day and ukakutana na mtu mwenye tu alikuwa mbaya, alikuongelesha vibaya, ama ni mwalimu or somebody you work with, things like that. So for me, I'd say majorly change and things that happen that are very unexpected to us that cause us not to know what to do. And I think maybe Derek can add to that.
Just on a lighter note, Lillian, can your boyfriend or your girlfriend cause some stress in you?
Of course, very much. 90% of our stresses come from the people that we are with, people that surround us, whether it's our friends, our boyfriends, our parents, our children.
Just a moment, sorry, I was muting Wilder, sorry, go on.
So yes, your boyfriend or your girlfriend can cause a lot of stress to you. It's possible. Yeah.
So it is one of the 1,000 ways to die fast.
Yes, in fact, today we're having this conversation with people that I was with, and we were talking about men's mental health. And somebody told us mental health ya wanaume is being threatened a lot by their girlfriends. So I don't know if it's true. Tunaweza ambiwa na the boy child and the men who are here. But that's what I was told.
Let me tell you, Lillian.
I was told today. I'm Teswi. Derek, unateseka?
Derek.
Suffering and me cannot be in one sentence as far as dating is concerned.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe to add on what Lillian has said about the difference between stress and depression. In layman's language, I normally say, if stress persists more than 2 weeks, then I think it has become a depression. Stress is something one should be able to handle, or a particular issue, in a period of 2 weeks. But if now it takes more than 2 weeks, then I think it has gotten to the early stages of depression. And I think Lillian explained what depression is. So when we talk about what causes or contributes to stress are the basic things, I think Lillian has defined it in one word by saying change. And change can be, for example, the death of your loved one. It can be a friend, it can be your girlfriend, it can be somebody you're close to in one way or the other. So that is sudden change you didn't anticipate, and it can literally eat you up, and it can even go to the extent of depression. It can go to the extent of having suicidal thoughts. So that is one. Number two, the working environment. And this is very crucial to most of us. Sometimes some of us are working in toxic environments. Toxic in the sense that how we are handled by our colleagues. Sometimes other colleagues handle you in a way that they make you feel inferior. Number one, they might mistreat you because of your gender. And it has been of case or an issue, especially to the women, when they are seen as sexual objects, even at work. Sexual comments about their dressing, how their body shapes looks like, and the likes. It can be an issue with the work when it comes to how you're paid. You feel like you're not paid as the input you give to that job. That alone can result to stress. The other issue is financial constraints. You may find the amount of money you're earning cannot support you, or cannot support your bills, or cannot necessarily support the people you have to feed. And it can really eat you up and can result to you not being emotionally stable, because mental health is more about being in a position to cope up with the normal stresses of life and work productively to produce better results within your community. The other thing I will also mention, or which Lillian said, is traumatic events can result to stress. For example, if something happened to you in the past, for example, you were sexually harassed, you were involved in an accident, or something unusual, there was conflict in the family, and then it hits you back years later, maybe something triggered that emotion, that can lead to stress. And of course, we can't sideline the issue on family conflicts. Some of us come from families where there is constant conflict between your mother and your father, or between your immediate family and your relatives. And this alone can result to stress, where a child is seeing the father beating the mother, or the elder sister doing crazy thing to the father, or the other way around. So these are some of the issues that result to stress. And the other issue is uncertainty, or even the normal happenings within our surrounding. For example, when each and every time we switch on our TV and all we hear about is death cases, all we hear about is murder, we hear about somebody or people committing crazy crimes in the public, that alone can result to stress. When we hear all about death, we hear all about crime and such, it disturbs our mind as human beings. That's why we say during COVID, people have been more stressed because of the kind of news that has been which are being reported in each and every source we can access. You are worried. We don't know about tomorrow. We don't know what will happen. We hear people dying because of COVID, and abrupt things that we don't anticipate. So these are some of the things that result to stress. And if the stress is not handled accordingly, it can lead to mental illness, which now is something, in most cases, there are mental illnesses that cannot be cured completely. You'll only be suppressing them each and every time. So I think those are some of the things that lead to stress. Thank you.
Okay, that is very wonderful, Derek, and nice hearing from you. Now that we are almost 30 minutes into this discussion, I want us to use the remaining minutes now to look at the solutions, because now briefly, we all understand what we are talking about here now when we are talking about stress. What is important now is to know how it can be managed, because definitely I think every human being at some point in your life, you must have experience what we're talking about. And also just remind you all that we said we're also dedicating this show to the young people that come to this panel to debate. You are the ones that make this show possible. Without you, this show is not a show at all. And from this day, or from this debate onwards, we'll be trying as much as possible so just to feature some of the great initiatives that you people are doing wherever you are, whether you're running businesses by you people, because that means you're walking the talk. It is a Lina running initiative somewhere. We want to give you that publicity here free. If it is Lillian running it, please bring it. We want to make sure that the world knows what we are doing, because you're the ones doing it. So I have this amazing friend running quite an interesting business here. If you can see it, they call themselves Omoka Digital Designs. Yes, they're saying once the moment you contact them, they're just amazing people. The moment you contact them and help you do websites for companies, for hospitals, for schools, for organizations. Remember, this is not a paid for advert. We're doing this because the people running this kind of initiatives are in our midst. In fact, the one running these initiatives just in this virtual hall, maybe later on he or she can even come on board and even tell us what is happening. So even as we keep on with the debate, remember that we have to walk the talk. If we're debating about health, guys, we have to get in those spaces to make health affordable and accessible to all. When we debate about agriculture, let's make sure that we are getting into that space when we're talking about girl child empowerment, boy child empowerment. Let the talk not just end in this discussion. We want to take this conversation further. And when we're talking about employment, let me tell you, these are the kind of things that we're talking about, Omoka Digital Designs, because this is a young person who has decided to come up with his own business, to try to create opportunities for others, and of course, try to make a living out of it. So back to the panelists that we are having here. Kindly, if you can hear me. Now, my quick question to all of you, Derek. Can stress be managed? And to everyone who is on the panel also. Can stress be managed, Derek? Or once you are stressed, it is a death sentence? Derek, I start with you.
Thank you for that. Stress, yes, can be managed because we get stressed. In fact, there is positive stress and negative stress. You can manage stress. Number one is accepting the situation as it stands. So stress, yes, can be managed. But the first step in healing or making things better is accepting the things that have happened. And then lastly, before I forget, there is another cause of stress can be poor planning. You may find you're supposed to do your work either in school or at work, but you do poor planning of your work. So because you do poor planning, your mind is in constant worry and in constant thought of not knowing what will happen. You are, or like, you cannot relax. You're all tensed, and instead of working or putting your hands to make things work out, you are in constant worry. It gets to the time when you're supposed to do that job. When you're doing that job, you don't end up delivering the right thing, and that again keeps on stressing you. You're not sure what will happen, how your boss will react to your work and the like. So poor planning can also result to stress. So yes, stress can be handled. It's not a mental illness. It can be handled by one accepting the situation at hand and reviewing the situation and ensuring you put on the right steps. I think we're going to discuss some of the ways in which one can overcome stress. I don't know if I can discuss at this point, or I allow somebody else to share their thoughts on the same.
Let's allow somebody else. Lillian, can stress be managed?
Yes, of course, stress can be managed. And the one way to manage stress is to expect it. Not by expecting, I don't say that you go around expecting bad things to happen, but to have an understanding that life is not a smooth sail and challenges will be there. Things will happen that you don't know how to handle, and you have to accept that things like that will happen. So once you accept that, it's easy for your mind to adapt to a situation like that when it happens. Because some people always think that life will be a smooth sail, there won't be any troubles, things will be okay, but that's not true. All of us have faced challenges here at one point or another. So number one to manage stress is to accept that stressful situations occur and they will occur to you, and it's not unique. It will happen to you, it will happen to the next person. And the way Derek has mentioned, planning, if it's a situation where you can avoid that kind of stress by planning for it, then okay. And then another thing is, in stressful situations, not everything you can resolve by yourself. If you need to seek help in your situation, whether it's a hard task that you need help with, whether it's somebody talked badly to you and you need to talk to somebody else to get another perspective of it, if you need help, seek it. Don't assume that you can handle everything by yourself. And I am stressing this especially to the boy children. Reach out and talk if you need to. So I'd say those stress can be managed. You just have to understand it, understand what is happening. If you cannot, seek help doing that.
Maybe Lillian, even before I let you go,
Okay.
to the next panelist, there's something here that we keep on saying, that speak up, speak to someone. What does it really mean? Is it just waking up one day and going by the roadside and saying, nimechoshwa na maisha, nimeachwa na Francisca, maisha sasa, mimi nimechoka? That is just an example. That is just an example, please.
It could be that. It could be a situation where umechoka, umeachwa na Francisca, and you can't take it anymore and you've gone to the streets. That's okay. But when we're speaking up, we are saying that because we've acknowledged that stress is pressure and it can be a little too much on one individual. So what we are saying is, how about you allow somebody else to help you? And somebody else cannot help you if they don't know what you're going through. So definitely you'll have to tell them, you have to share your experience with them so that they can help you. So speaking up, by speaking up, we are saying, talk up, share your experience with somebody. And somebody else, today somebody told me, and I was talking to a certain guy, and he told me that after I talk to you, how will you help me with my problem? Exactly. So I will, yes. So I don't have solutions for your problems, and nobody has solutions for your problems. You're the only one who has the solution to your problem. And even when you go to a therapist, most of the people think guiding and counseling is about giving advice, or counseling is about giving advice. It's not about that. Counselors, in fact, are not allowed to give advice. So the answers are within you. However, when you're in a stressful situation or when you're depressed, your judgment is clouded. There's a lot going on. You're not able to make the best decision for yourself. So talking to somebody else helps this person to see what you're going through and to be able to help you explore other perspectives of your situation, which will finally help you as an individual get a solution. I don't know if I'm making sense.
I think you're making a lot of sense. Since you've mentioned the boy child, Derek and any other boy child on the panel, I'll excuse Flora and Lillian for a few minutes.
Okay.
Derek and any other boy child on the panel, I would like you, maybe if Mukoko or Osore or Professor Weshuli can maybe turn on their mic or and the video, just to tell us, is it just a boy child thing not to open up? Ama tunaekelewa? Derek, is there a problem with that? Because everyone keep on saying that even when a boy is stressed, they rarely talk.
Yeah, if I can go on that, or maybe.
Yes. Derek, go on.
Okay. Thank you so much. Speaking from experience, I think it is so difficult for men to open up. Men have an issue of, we keep on telling us you need to man up. It is not a man's thing to be emotional. And one of the ways of being emotional is accepting you are stressed. So in the men world, when you're stressed, you find your way of sorting out the issue. And finding your way is keeping it to yourself and trying out something that will help you overcome. So it becomes a challenge. It is a big challenge, of course, to many of us men to open up. I think for me, I gained the courage to open up when I think they say when the rubber had, when the road had met the rubber, something like that. When I was in a place where it was either I choose to open up or I choose to get into depression, I choose to get into more suicidal thoughts and such. So for me, I learned through the hard way. And I think it is still a big issue to men outside there. They don't believe in opening up because relating to emotions is relating to weakness, and no man wants to be seen or to appear as weak. But again, I'd say openly here on this show is there's nothing like being weak. Being in a position to open up is giving yourself an opportunity to live. It is a way of making yourself better. I normally say for you to accept to overcome your stress is the same case of a woman who is pregnant and 9 months, the journey of carrying the baby for 9 months have finally arrived, and it's time for her to give birth. So if she has the fear of being naked before nurses and doctors, then there are two things that lie ahead of her: to lose her life and to lose the life of the baby. But if she decides to open up or to allow the doctors to help her in giving birth, then she gives herself an opportunity to give life to a new baby and to rejoice in her heart that she has given birth to a new bouncing baby boy or baby girl. So I think, men, it's a challenge. We still don't believe in opening up. And actually, according to science, women are more prone to stress compared to men, but women get easier or feel easier to talk about it, and making men who are not even more prone to stress to commit suicide. So I think it's still a challenge. I normally try to reach out to my fellow men to, encourage them to open up. For me, if I am stressed, you'll ask Lillian, you'll ask Flora or anyone. I mean, I'll walk into you and I'll tell you, by I'm sorry, I'm so stressed. Or sometimes I tell my friends, I think I'm depressed. Some will joke about it, some will laugh about it, but it makes me feel better than how I was before. So I think it is still a journey we are learning as men. And I don't think Rome was made in one day. I still think people who are in the mental health space need to encourage men to be more confident about themselves and to be free to do self-disclosure so as to be helped outside here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful, Derek. That's such a powerful example. The example of a woman giving birth to a bouncing baby boy. You should have said, and a slaying baby girl, because that's what they do nowadays, even at that young age. But anyway, so Derek, you just mentioned, I mean, you've mentioned some critical points there. Any other gentleman on the panel? I just want to see, how do people manage stress? Before now we come back again to Lillian and Derek. Now, what are the other ways that people can manage them? Maybe can we just hear from personal experiences? How do you manage your stress? Maybe a minute each. How do you do it? Because maybe to somebody like me, when I'm stressed out, maybe what I'll do, just go run for 10 kilometers early in the morning, and by then to me, I feel okay. I'll go run and then disappear, go pump all that energy there. But to other people, maybe because it also depends on what is the cause of the stress. to other people? Could it be just facing the person who has caused it? We are all different. There are people that when people are running towards this other direction, that person runs to danger, to face the danger and deal with it. So from the other members in the virtual hall here, Christian Musando, I see your camera is, your audio is on. How do you manage your stress, Christian?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Yeah, that's a very good question. There are very many ways in which one can manage stress. But during this COVID, we really had to create. You really had to create those ways. One way I can say is creating interesting activities for yourself. During the time when we were on the lockdown, people were not moving a lot. So you find if you're living alone, that is if you're living alone, or probably you have a family, you have to create interesting ways, engage in activities, cooking, games. There are many ways. Just create something interesting, fun games, educational fun games, activities, youth. So I believe by creating those activities, that was one way of fighting stress during that difficult time. Yeah.
Okay. That is from Tina's point of view. Let me open it up also to Emmanuel Smile, if you can hear me. Josephine Flora, you can come back to the screen. Sorry, Sabine, if you can hear me, maybe how do you handle your stressful moments? Someone else, Major Mwakoi, this session is open to all of us so that we can hear and learn from each other. Elena, if you are still here on the panel, kindly come back to the screen. Wilda Nyagoha, we have Prof. Weshuli, the man from Wasinigishu County. You can come back, you can come to the screen here to hear how you manage your situation. You never know. Elena?
Okay, of course, before I say anything, let me just add on to what my friend had said, the gentleman meaning up to somebody, is because people believe maybe huyu mwanaume ameacha na relationship. Like at the beginning of this, at the beginning of this virtual meeting, I saw how like you are teasing each other, like nimeachwa na dem fulani and all that. It's so important to understand that if you see a man depressed or a man stressed, it doesn't mean that the man has been left by a girlfriend. There are so many things that factor in when it comes to being stressed. And at times I like calling them curves because it's something that, okay, iko kwako, but that doesn't mean after you've solved it, it has been solved like kwa kila mtu ako nayo. A curve, see, as you know, a curve is something that has no end. So in Amanisha, I have that problem. You also have that problem. Let's take an example of finances. When it comes to universities, and I'm sure majority of us here to Lipitia University, Amadi High School or primary school, and you'll realize kwamba people have issues when it comes to finances. For a lady, it's okay, I can open up freely, but for a man hata kuja aseme niko na issue ya fees, cause akisema okay, I'm having an issue, the rest of the team will just end up saying huyu ni mwanaume, mbona unakaliwa na maisha hivi? It's so bad. We should at least, I always say it is okay not to be okay, and also we should at least make this talk equal. We should familiarize with the topics. And you see, my team and I, we have always talked about it. And most of the time, I really try to listen to the men because I realize they have issues, but they cannot talk about them. Because I can have an issue, maybe let me say my parents are not getting along, but I'll not tell you because at the end of it all, you just end up saying, we are met to a girlfriend, which is so bad. That's why you're realizing men are not talking. It's the female who are talking.
Okay, that is interesting. We go to other panelists, other members of the virtual audience, please. Before I come back to Lillian and Derek, Professor Weshuli, Wilden Yagoha, Emmanuel Smile, you can unmute and say hello to people here and also share with us how you manage your stress, especially someone like Emmanuel Smile, who is an artist. you release your song. Sometimes you really have to be inspired to sing. Sometimes, I mean, I don't, is it the singing that releases stress for you, Emmanuel, or what? People like Professor Weshule, is it the philosophy and the many books that you read, or what exactly happened? Professor Weshule, go on.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Okoth. I think with managing stress, as to my case, what I can actually share that first of all, we have to accept the reality. You know, in life, there is a reality. There are things that you cannot escape from. There are things that actually, when they happen, you must be ready to accept that the situation has happened and there is no reverse. But the only way is to focus and see what is the way forward. Because you get that we get to be stressed because most of the time we tend to focus on the past. Because, for example, as I've said, men don't talk, or somebody has mentioned of a man being left by a girlfriend or a fiance. You see, if you're to focus on that situation that you know so and so has left me, why? You start asking yourself so many questions. Why has he left? I did to have this and all that. So that gives you stress. But if you want to manage your stress well, if something happens, know that indeed it is really in life. For example, you know, when you look at how even in a marriage, a girl leaves the family, he leaves the father, the mother, and everyone. He goes to join the boy to live with. So the same way she left the family, she can also leave you because that was her own blood and she left them for you. What about you? So have that reality that is not that some situation, don't take them as if they're permanent. And in a relationship, sometimes I say don't take relationships too serious and such that they can affect your life. That as a man or as a woman, you get to kill yourself because of a relationship. Because I can say that is not the end of life. Sometimes some things get away from our life so that we get to move to get better things. Because you can never get something better when you are still holding on the one that you had previously. And also another way, like for me, when I feel like, though I rarely get stressed, but when I feel like I'm stressed, as someone has said that you check the activity that you like most. Like for me, I like playing music. And when I get to play my piano in the house, I think I'll forget about everything. I'll forget about everything that happened and take life in a simple manner. Also, let us learn to plan our lives very well as people, whether a man or a woman. We must just learn how to plan ourselves because you get that most of the time stress struck most people during this COVID-19 because of how we had planned ourselves earlier on. But if you plan yourself very well, you'll get that in rare cases, can you get yourself in a situation whereby you are so much stressed? Because, for example, if somebody was employed, you don't just dwell on that employment as if you'll be there forever. At least get to invest. That will give you a good opportunity that even if you are to be out of this job, you will not be stressed because you are able to manage yourself. You are able to manage your family. You are able to manage your own basic or your own needs that you need. So I think it's just a very simple way of managing ourselves, planning our future, planning our lives very well. We get to be organized. And so we cannot live a stressful life. Let us know the reality, accept the reality, and know that life must move on no matter what. And so let us leave alone so many things. It is unfortunate that we men, we are not talented in speaking too much as ladies, speaking about ourselves, but we rather stay quiet and calm. Yeah, sometimes it is positive because we get to be creative and innovative on how to handle our own issues. But I'd rather say that because of the increasing cases that we are seeing around, you better speak up, get to have at least a confidant who you can share with, for that will be of more benefit. At least when you get to speak out, you may get something to learn something from somebody that you never know. I believe that a problem shared is a problem half solved. Thank you.
Okay. Wilda, I see your hand is up, but before I go to Wilda, Josephine Flora here says, we can also manage stress by avoiding things which trigger stress. If you get stressed, for example, because you are angry, just avoid getting angry. Okay. Mukoko says, for a long time, men tend to manage stress by making fun of the problem. Women tend to manage it by crying and sharing. I don't know how true that is, but the best thing, we are all sharing what we know and maybe things that have been working for us. Wilda Nyagoha, turn on your mic. Your hand is up. Wilda Nyagoha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been listening carefully to Professor Weshuli, and I wish he could stop centering his argument on relationship. Stress is not about relationship. Do you know that sometimes someone can be stressed about which food am I going to eat, being stressed about school, being stressed about the surrounding just, and nakumbuka kuna time unaweza kaa tu hivi, you feel like you're stressed. What is stressing you? You don't even know what is stressing you. So, and the one thing I can say is, yes, people have learned how to accept the reality. In case something happens to you, you accept it. But the problem comes in after accepting it. Now, what will you do? That is the big question.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Emmanuel Smile.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, it's Smile. Go on, brother.
So basically, yeah, I'll come back to the the stress we all call stress. Kitu kama hiyo. Stress for me, stress is a natural. How do you call it? It's a natural defense, body defense. So men, let me get to the root first of all before I go to how I try. No, we are not perfect, but how we try to at least go throughout these moments of stress. Men, the society has made men be, you are a man, no need of tears. So tears should not be even from you. Actually, mwanaume hatafai kuwa na machozi. I think that is one thing, how the society has trained us to be that way. Mwanaume hatafai kuwa na machozi. And for a lady, you don't need a lot of things. You only need to get into a saloon and that pub, you open up. You only need to get to, you put on a leso, a cap on your ploti, and you open up, which is very different from men. Mwanaume unampeleka hata in the best place anapenda, but they'll never open up. So I think if we can try change the story of how the community has made men be so immune, so defensive to the natural defense system of the body, that is stress. I think if we can first of all change the narrative. Most of the time I try to change that narrative personally, from being told that you should not cry, you should not feel anything like, wanting to cry, so you should be a man. But I think one thing again, as you were saying before my net decided to misbehave, that there are so many ways of us getting through it. And the way I get through my own stress is basically music. And again, it is not just any kind of music, because again, let me try the very one thing most of us have seen or have been part of. If you are to be a man and then you are broken, and then you go to you listen to love song, you're not helping yourself. You're putting yourself deep. You're burying yourself deep. It's like you've been broken and then you go and listen to Usiponipenda Nitapendwa na Nani. You see, not any kind of music again. So I think if we also get to that point when we are trying to find the best ways of getting out of stress, we also need to know what is the best thing to do. If it's getting some exercise, like finding something that will distraction. Most of the time, the youth in the community we are living in today, the youth will find distraction, but the distractions we find are destructive distraction. They are not in any way adding anything to life, but rather destroying you to a point of regretting later that I went through my stress in this particular moment. So I think as we try to get this, we should also try to know how do we help each other to get a distraction that will not also put them later into something they regret. Yeah.
Wonderful. Sorry, Sabine, your hand is up. Kindly a minute for you.
Okay, guys, I think most of you have just spoken about relationship based on this issue stress. And by going or oscillating towards that direction, we are missing a lot with respect to this issue of stress, because stress by itself, as it goes, per se, as most of the submission have been laid upon, it shouldn't be based on only how you can be hurt or what. There are stress that come in the workplace where those people are managing their own business. You find that this frustration that usually being compiled from different cadre of government, poor business opportunity and a good environment that the government gives is something that hinders that growth of that. So you find entrepreneurs usually find themselves being piled in different circles of not delivering, and the energy or that poor energy is being channeled to different facets of the institution. So this leads to different communication. And when you pile pressure, because when we talked about stress, I tried to giggle majority by saying that stress is a force that is being acted upon in a unit area of material that is in a science base, that in a physics. And if we apply force on something, basically the student or the lovers of physics will tell you, when you push, when you give something pressure, it finds a way on how to retaliate back. So you find majority of people are talking about people should open up. Yes, these people open up, but the method that they use to open up is the poor method. Some of them, when they are stressed, they'll open up by doing some heinous act. Some, they find that courage of tagging people along in their conversation, and this will help, or will like as we all know that nature is about the ripple effect. What you take is about white or black. So majority of them usually fail to understand there's a gray area where they can confide.
So maybe Sabian, maybe just
Yes.
now straight to the point. How do you manage stress yourself? Because maybe someone can learn from that.
Personally, when I find myself in a situation whereby I feel uncomfortable, I reach out to majority of my pillars. So I talking, or you cry. You understand, or some say that men are not meant to cry. If it's something that is hurting, express yourself. By virtue of an artist, I can write a piece to ease my anger, or I can work out, or I do something that divert my energy from that. You just transform that energy to something useful. That is how you can do it. Yes.
Asante sana Sabian, that is Mr. Osore there. Omukoko, how do you manage stress, brother? Then we come back to amazing panelists. This is a side also to conclude this topic for us. Omukoko?
Yeah, thank you very kindly. Just before I go into how I manage stress, I just wanted to mention something that my grandma told me, and I think maybe the panelists can share their thoughts on this. What she told me is that in their times, they were hardened right from childhood. And so I think that hardening made them more resilient to very testing times in life. And I think increasingly we are getting to a level whereby we care about children's rights, which is good. We care about our children so much that we raise them so delicately, and that makes them very vulnerable to very tough situations in life. So I wonder whether hardening people right from childhood will actually be something helpful for them to build that resilience to handle the challenges they face in life. But for me, managing stress has always been different depending on what is actually stressing me. And what I learned is that you need to have friends whom you're in constant communication with, and that has always been helpful. When I had COVID as one of the earliest cases of COVID in Kenya, it was really a very tough moment for me. But every time someone will make a call, someone will talk to me and say, and just encourage me. And that was very helpful. But I think that does not always happen to people who are even speaking out. Speaking out, you might tell people who actually judge you, you might tell people who actually laugh at you. And so it becomes very difficult for people to even open up. And it's not just boys who are not opening up. Sometimes it also extends to girls, just that it's more on the boys' side usually. So I think the best thing for me is just keeping busy, doing a lot of exercise, sometimes just shouting, which a few people singing out loud and doing all. I tend to do such things when I'm at home, especially because I'm more free at home. And people might think I'm just running mad or something of that sort. But at the end of the day, the effect is that it helps me blow off some steam. It helps me restore that calm and eventually get back on my feet. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful, Mukoko. And I think definitely you've raised a very important point there that I'll also be pushing to Derek and Lillian and any other person here before we come to the end of the session. The question on raising a hard person. Yeah, you know what we mean by raising a hard core. When we were young, we were told, as a man, this is how you have to behave. This is how you have to look at things so that when issues come your way, you can tackle them easily. That's really a way now to still consider. But before I come to the panelists, remember I said that we want to use this session or this show also to try to let the world know some of the amazing projects that all the debaters who come to this panel are doing. And of course, people are involved in different programs. Some other people here, the debaters here, and are doing agricultural projects in their communities, Western Kenya or Nairobi, Rift Valley, wherever they're coming from. Some others are into health programs, some are into mentorship programs. We need to know all these things. So today, this gentleman who has just spoken a few minutes ago, that is Sabino, sorry, he runs Omoka Digital Designs, which is the #1 web design agency, let me say, in Kenya, East African region. They can help you do a very good website, nice banners for your company, for your organization, for your school, for your hospital, or even for the initiatives that we are talking about here. Kindly get in touch with these guys. It is very nice to see a young man doing his own projects. Let's keep supporting each other even as we keep on debating, because these talks alone won't help. We have to walk the talk, right? If we're debating about agriculture, guys, we have to get into that space. If we're talking about health, let's get into that space. We're debating about job creation. We know very well that we are the government and we have to keep participating in creating these opportunities for all. Derek, from Koko's question in a minute, kindly, just a minute to address that question on hardening a child to manage stress.
I don't know how we're going to answer that question because we cannot lie to the world that hardening is about making your kid not be emotional. I believe if we can review that definition, for me, I'd say hardening is telling your kid to go for whatever they want, but whenever they feel stressed, they should learn to open up. Hardening for me, it's a way of reminding your kid that there will always be a shoulder to lean on wherever there's an issue. I don't think hardening is training any child, wherever they are, to keep on pushing themselves to the limit, even when they feel that they can't do it. Sometimes we need to take a break. And sometimes by hardening, we need to remind our kids that you will face tough hurdles, that stress is part of life, but I will train you to learn how to open up, how to speak up. Hardening is not telling any person to shut up. Hardening is not telling any person to die inside so that people outside can think you are tough enough, you are a tough skin. That is not hardening for me. And if that is what he refers to, then I think he got the wrong definition of hardening up or toughening up for any child outside there. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Lillian, will you take on that?
Yeah, so hardening, wow. For me, I'm completely against hardening. And I'll say this for this reason. The fact that we're talking about mental health issues right now, it doesn't mean that they didn't exist. In that society or generation that was called resilient by Omkoko, we had these issues. People still committed suicide. So that means the issue was there. These issues were there. It's just that right now, it's imemulikwa. Everyone is talking about them, but then they were still there. So hardening doesn't help because you're telling your child to suppress their emotion, to suppress how they feel, to suppress their issues, not to talk about their issues and become resilient and just assume it's not happening, for example. So hardening, I wouldn't say it's actually, for me, hardening is the easiest way out, because hardening means you're not dealing with the situation. Hardening to me looks like when a child is going through something, you tell them to man up instead of walking this child through a way they can solve their situation, for example. So hardening for me would be something that I would really speak against, because it is not solving the issue. Let's allow people to express themselves. Let's allow children to express their emotions, how they feel, their opinions, and whatever it is that is going on with them. But hardening has a lot to do with suppressing emotions, suppressing feelings, suppressing issues. And that's what is leading us to suicide. And just to mention, as much as even we're talking about boy child, we've just mentioned a lot about that. And I would really like for each one to know, I know somebody said that women have a talent in speaking. It's not a talent. And some of us, I am a woman and I struggle with opening up. So it's a skill. It's something that you learn, and it's a very good coping mechanism, but you have to learn. You can't sit and it happens. Even me, didn't come from me naturally. I had to learn. So it's not a talent. You have to learn, and it's an important skill, because as long as we're talking about suicide, 70% of the suicide cases are by men. So that should tell us we have a problem and we need to look at how to solve it.
Okay, wonderful. Before we come to the end of this discussion, I think it's also very important just to let you know, these shows come to you every Thursday, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. That is East African time. always remember you have an opportunity even to contribute towards the discussions, or even just to suggest to us some of the topics that you'd like us to cover. So before letting the panelists give us their closing remarks, ladies and gentlemen, next week we are finishing this month of the discussions around COVID-19 in style. You know, looking at what has happened in our country from COVID-19 to outbreak of different diseases and all that. The question we're asking ourselves next week in next week's debate night, is Kenya ever ready to tackle disasters? That's the question that we're asking ourselves next week. Is our country, that's the Republic of Kenya, ever ready to tackle disasters? On the proposing side, we'll be having Derek Masaba Were, who is on the panel here today, and also we'll be having a gentleman by the name Hudson Otingwa or Manoti from Nyeri. On the opposing side, now we have another interesting duo, that is Victor Mukami, a student, but also a strategic, she's working around communication, and Ian Nyongeza, who is also a student. So next week's debate will be hot. It will be better and greater than all the other debates that we had here before. And of course, feel free always to reach out to us with any kind of topic that you want us to tackle. The week after next week, that is now, we'll be getting to the month of August. The whole of August, we're tackling matters, governance, and leadership. Be prepared for some of the most heated debates on this session, on this show here. Coming back to Derek and Lillian in a minute each, because we started 8 minutes late. We need to finish this on time. Derek, in a minute, your parting shot, then Lillian.
My parting shot will be based on our personalities. I'd say the basic issue relating to stress, depression, and other mental illnesses is the fact that we have given other people power to control us and to make us happy. It is not the responsibility of any man or any woman to make you happy or feel better. And it is not your responsibility as a human being to make others happy at the expense of your own happiness. My final words will be, understand yourself more than you understand other people. Through that, you'll be able to know what triggers you. You'll know what makes you happy. You'll know what excites you, and you'll know when to say no and when to say yes. Through that, we'll be able to avoid so many issues relating to mental health illnesses. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Lillian and Elena, if you're somewhere, you can come to the screen. Lillian?
For me, my last words would be stress and mental health issues are it's very normal, unfortunately. And when it happens, when you are in a situation, first of all, yes, we've talked about running, we've talked about taking a break, screaming, and all those things. Unfortunately, some of the things we go through after you run, you just come back to them. But however, running can help you cool off as you think about how you're going to resolve your issue. So I would say, whatever the case is, don't run away from the problem. If you need a little distraction, whether it's running, music, a movie, you can do that, but ensure you come back to your problem and find ways to resolve it so that next time you don't have the same problem. Because sometimes what we do is we keep the problem on weight. You will find a distraction, maybe you'll go drinking, maybe you will watch a movie and just leave your problem there chilling. You will come back to it. So whatever, stress is normal, find ways that whatever works for you, but most importantly, ensure you learn how to solve the challenges that you experience. Because if you don't solve them, they will still be there and you'll have to do something about them.
Okay. Elena, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Elena, your parting shot? Oh, Elena, we can't hear you, unfortunately. Okay. It's a struggle. Elena, is a struggle from your side, Pole. I think it's a network issue, but it was good having you, Elena, on our platform here tonight. And of course, everyone who joined us.
Okay, let me just finally.
We're already late for this because we promised this 1 hour, guys. Let's just stick to that. Thank you, everyone, for joining this session. We cannot exhaust this conversation here, but let it continue in your subgroups in YouTube channel where we are live right now. You can keep having these conversations. Derek and Lillian will definitely strive following and keep answering or responding to any questions. But that does not mean that they're experts. We are all learning from each other. We are all sharing what we have. Next week, we are coming back to this panel with a great debate because it is the last Thursday of July. The question we're asking ourselves, is the Republic of Kenya ever ready to tackle disasters? Is our country ever ready to tackle disasters? On the proposing side, we'll have Derek Were Masaba, the man behind everything, DMW himself. On the proposing side, together with Hudson Ochingwa, that is Manoti from Nyeri. Wonderful. He joined us as a viewer from YouTube. Now he's coming in the panel as a debater. On the opposing side, we'll have Ian Nyongeza, who is a student at the university, and of course, Victory Mugambi, also joining us as an opposer to that motion. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this night. And wherever you are, stay safe, keep following the guidelines, and keep sharing and motivating each other. Always be there for each other. I've been your host, Okoto from the Camp D Voices, and on behalf of everyone who has managed and organized this